Welcome to Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. High school students are very busy these days. As school returns fully to in-person with few limitations left from the pandemic, students are back in classes and active with various extracurricular activities: sports, bands, debate, dance team, theater, National Honor Society, and more. But creating a nonprofit and running it? Well, that's not so typical, and not the typical bill of fare for many students. Our guest today's show has done just that. We welcome Kavya Parikh, who is co-founder and director of operations for The Future is Female. Kavya, thank you so much. And you are one of those busy students.
Yes, extremely busy.
We're glad we could get you corralled in for just a little while to talk about what you're doing. So, The Future is Female, a nonprofit. Tell us what that is. What does that mean? Of course, the future is female.
So Future is Female originally started when our co-founder, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, she kind of looked up to her mom. Her mom was this feminist idol in her life, and her mom's a doctor, and sometimes she doesn't get the respect that her male counterparts would in the day-to-day workforce. So Sadia was growing up with this two-parent working household. Her brother and her would always have chores split equally, but then she would go to school and hear like, oh, my mom makes me do everything, or oh, my dad only makes me do this. And she kind of understood that not everyone has these people to look up to. So she decided to make Future is Female, and she onboarded me because we're pretty close friends and we're both very feminist. So we're very big on women's equal rights and overall just making the world a better place for women and feminists. So that's kind of how Future is Female was born. As far as where we're going right now, our mission, like our formal mission, is to educate and give back to our community, as well as providing opportunities to kind of combat the struggles that feminists and women face in their daily lives. Looking forward, there's a couple of things we want to do. We want to establish a scholarship, which is in the works. It's going to be launched September 1st, which we're really excited for. It'll be 4 people, each awarded $1,000 each through bold.org, which is really exciting. And we're also working on going to the elementary schools, because in elementary school, you get that dreaded period talk and everyone thinks it's so awkward. And sometimes the people giving it to you haven't menstruated before or haven't menstruated in a while, things like that. And so it's hard to relate to them. So we really want to help connect high schoolers to elementary students, because at least in our community, high schoolers are really looked up to. So allowing them to kind of go to the elementary school and say, hey, this is normal, I do it every month, and kind of talk to them and normalize it would really, really be something that we're super excited for.
Kavya, I never thought here in 2022, when I was in high school, and I won't say what years those were, but I would have thought that we got beyond this whole kind of feminism conversation and the need to be having it with young women. Why did this strike you and your friend so much? Was there something seminal? You mentioned she watched her mom, who's a professional and a physician and very busy life, and both parents, but my gosh, there's a whole lot of other things you guys could be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So at least for me, when I was younger, I was very much into sports and I really liked math, all that kind of stuff. And people in my grade would be like, no, that's for boys, or like, girls can't do this, they're not good at this. And overall, just sexist ideals. And it's really hard to, in my mind, unlearn those sexist ideals when you get older, because, like, as the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I mean, as far as like that, I don't necessarily believe in, but when it comes to ideals and how you live your life and the way you think of things, whenever you have those thoughts that are ingrained in your mind, it's going to be so hard to unlearn them the older you get. So for me, I was like, we definitely need to educate on this, because the more people who only listen to like what their parents have to say about gender norms and society as a whole are just going to continue kind of those sexist ideals, and no change can happen. So for me, it was really important to make sure that that little girl who wants to play kickball isn't told off. I also had my mom and my sister who are very big feminist like role models for me, and so they really encouraged me to join in the first place, and also just kind of keep me on my toes feminist wise. They always tell me about different things and like what's going on in the world on that part, because I'm pretty bad at keeping up with the news. I have so many other things to do right now
Going on,
and so
sure.
it's not like the first thing on my mind, unfortunately. But for me, it's just when I was younger, I hated how I was treated just because I wanted to do those things that were more like boyish, which there definitely aren't. So I wanted to make sure that younger me doesn't have to do that anymore.
How did you all figure that you could make that kind of generational change? That's big.
I think, I mean, when we first kind of brought the club, before we were a nonprofit, we didn't realize how many people we would actually impact. We started the club thinking, oh, like 15, 20 people will join. It'll be a safe space. And as we put flyers out and told our friends, more and more people started to join until we had a whopping 70 people in our club. And we were like, wow, if this many people want to come from this school, how many people want to do it in other schools? And so we were kind of like thinking about that. It was dwelling in our head. And then we got a message from someone at a different school who saw our Instagram, and they said, can I make a chapter? And that's kind of how the nonprofit started. So honestly, me and Sadia never really thought of making that generational change. We thought of making a safe space for feminists in our school. And it kind of almost snowballed into what it is now, which is crazy to think about. I still like am looking past on these 2 years, and I can't believe everything that's happened.
And you did this in a pandemic. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this was, and maybe, well, share with us how that came. Maybe it was a better thing that we were in a pandemic.
And it was definitely hard making engaging meetings over Zoom because we weren't in person. And also, like, for us, like, at our school, they do like club fairs and stuff. So it was hard not to be able to get that word out. But I mean, we still amassed pretty well.
So in the very beginning, it really was a club at Blue Valley West, correct?
Yes.
You guys were juniors when you
Sophomores.
Sophomores. Oh, I've had you even further along. I know in the high schools, usually you have to go to the administration, who may have slightly different views of what you want to share. So can you walk us through that process? You know, that'll benefit other aspiring teens possibly to jump at it. You know, what was that like for you guys?
So
you gals.
Thankfully, at our school, making a club is not too hard. Basically, what the administration will ask you is to A, have your club, B, have 2 other officers, not including you, because I mean, running a club can be really stressful for just one person, and then have a sponsor, which is a teacher who is willing to dedicate room space and some of their time to this club. And we were able to find a sponsor, and Sadia asked me and another friend to help out. And I mean, it was simple as that, making a club. As far as other things, it can be a little hard. We hosted a protest over the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So when we did that and we wanted to put flyers up around the school, you have to ask the school permission for flyers. And that was kind of something we couldn't do just because we're a public school, so having a political opinion can't really happen for us. So we were able to kind of hand out the flyers across school, but we couldn't pin it up anywhere. So as far as like administration goes, Blue Valley West was very unbiased, which we are really thankful for. And honestly, we found such a supportive community there.
So you organized a protest. You couldn't put posters up at school, but you were able to do this. Where did you do it, and who attended, and did you have a program with it?
So we did it at the Overland Park. Oh gosh, I forget what it is now. It was a government building. I think the Overland Park City Council building, if I remember correctly. And it was a somewhat small protest. It was about like 20 to 30 people who got together. It was a really fun affair, actually. We had some posters, some of them like honk if you're pro choice and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool. And we were able, it was actually amazing. Senator Sidney Holscher was able to speak and attend, which was super cool. She's a very inspirational person. And then me and Cydia just kind of said a couple of words, just kind of talking about how, I mean, it's honestly just unjustifiable that women are getting their rights taken away in this day and age, or people are getting their rights taken away. So it was lasted about like 2-3 hours, and it was really fun because it opened at least my eyes to how progressive the Kansas City community is. I feel like it's so stereotypical. Everyone's like, oh, Kansas country, that kind of stuff, but it really is anything but, in our location at least. So knowing that there are people in our community that support people who menstruate and support people who want or need abortions, it's really gratifying to know.
That's great that you got 30 people to, and teens at that, to say, oh,
Yep.
yeah, I'll go do this. I'm blown away. I remember having teens in my house, and, I guess it must be the peer-to-peer invitation versus the parent to kid kind of thing. So it started at Blue Valley West as a club, and then somebody reached out to you from another school. Talk about then how you've grown like crazy.
Yeah. So after that person reached out, me and Cydia kind of talked, and we were like, the hierarchical system, for lack of a better word, it cannot be a club at one school kind of like ruling over a club at another school. It has to be one separate entity that's kind of helping out other places or having chapters at other places. So since that was the case, we were kind of thinking how best to do it. And I mean, we weren't going to make any profit off of this. That's not something we were looking for. And I mean, for 2 high schoolers, that seemed to be a lot of work as well. So we were just like, why don't we make a nonprofit? We'll donate to a bunch of charities, run some scholarships, and overall just spread the word about who we are and what we would like to do. And ever since then, we kind of took off. We ran into a couple of obstacles. Obviously, someone who's never filled out tax forms, filling out a bunch of stuff, a 501c3, really daunting. And our sponsor at the time, she isn't supportive of us becoming a nonprofit. So we had to find someone new, which was quite unfortunate, but we made it through. It kind of showed us how strong we are as a partnership, and also just as an organization, which, I mean, it's nice to know that we can both rely on each other. And then, yeah, so after we kind of made a nonprofit, we started posting on our social media more, and we started posting TikToks more, and we just got connected to a bunch of people who were super like-minded. And once that happened, we kind of got the ball rolling. Now we have about 11 chapters in 6 different states. We really want to grow into middle school and elementary school as of right now, just because, like I said earlier, gender norms, the more time you spend with them and when they're engrossed in your head, the harder it is to unlearn the bad ones, really. So going in and kind of talking to younger kids at more of in elementary school, we're obviously not going to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg or something like that, something that is too heavy on their heads, but maybe something like color has no gender, or talking kind of about basic feminism. And then middle school, something similar, that kind of stuff. Obviously, since they're a little more mature, they can handle a little more stuff. But yeah, overall, we just wanted to create a safe community for a bunch of people who wanted to kind of get into feminism, because it's such a daunting thing to get into feminism. I remember thinking like, I'm not educated enough. I don't like know enough feminists. I don't do enough, all that kind of stuff. And it's such a scary thing sometimes, thinking that like, am I really that good of a feminist if I barely do anything? So kind of just giving everyone that intro to feminism and saying like, yes, it's amazing if you do protests. Yes, it's amazing if you donate to a bunch of charities regarding feminism, but sometimes you just have to stand up for yourself or stand up for other girls or people, and that's feminism too. So I think a lot of people just identified with that message, and we were able to kind of just get the word out and people starting to make clubs. We run a drive called the Futures Female Drive, and our numbers, like, they've grown quite a lot ever since we became a nonprofit. When we were just a club, we raised, I want to say, about 5,000 products. And I mean, up to this year, I mean, the last drive we ran, it was about 20,000 products that we were able to raise and donate to local shelters in Kansas City, which, oh my gosh, that was absolutely mind-boggling to know. And it was crazy. It's so fun, honestly, this whole experience. Yeah, so then after that, we were able to apply to the T-Mobile Changemaker Challenge. And through that, we were able to win. I think the application pool was about 200 people. And out of that, 16 teams were chosen. And from that 16, 4 were chosen to like pitch to the executives of T-Mobile. And Futures Female was one of them. It was very cool. They had like this whole little stage that you'd walk up on and kind of just pitch like what your some people had like ideas, some people had like full scale projects, that kind of stuff. So just pitching like your organization. And through that, we were able to win $10,000, which, oh my gosh, it was absolutely, again, mind blowing. It was such a fun experience, and we met so many other people through that who also went back and created clubs, and we like met so many people who we were just like, oh my gosh, we should make this too. And so we've kind of created chapters from them too.
Well, congratulations on what an achievement to win a $10,000 prize to put into your nonprofit. We're talking to Kavya Parikh. She is co-founder of the Futures Female, a nonprofit that started at a high school level with 2 friends wanting to move the needle forward. So with these other chapters, they're chapters of the nonprofit versus a school club, right?
Yes, they're chapters of the nonprofit.
And so how have you worked that part of the story? I mean, do they have certain things they have to follow, certain things they have to do?
So we don't want to restrict our clubs too much. We want to make sure that each person has their own leadership style, their own like ideas that they want to do. So all that we ask is that they kind of adhere to a couple guidelines. So each month we'll send out a topic. I believe September is college readiness, because we have a lot of people who are kind of going into college, and it's a good way to kind of talk about our scholarship. October for Blue Valley West is when we run our drive. Although some other clubs don't choose to do it then, they have the freedom to choose when they do their drive. We only ask that they do a drive. And November is like mentorship. So we ask that each person kind of fill out a form that says, I'm interested in this field, and I know someone in this field. So then we can contact them, get them kind of over, and ask them to spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour talking to our club members about what it is they do and how they kind of got to their position. That's just a few examples. But so we send a list of kind of topics that we ask every group to cover. And we obviously like say they want to take a field trip somewhere, renting a bus, all those dues. We ask that they let us know so we can properly delegate funding to them, because we don't expect anyone to have to spend their own money on that. And that's about it. We do a drive, and then we do a social media day, which is kind of our most important things, because keeping up with social media is a lot. So
a lot of work.
It's lots of
So,
work.
so the drives that you do are for what kind of things?
So we ask that they donate to local shelters because sometimes it's really hard to find a reliable like charity to donate to, especially if it's online or anything like that. And that way you can raise in-kind donations if you do it to a local shelter. So for us, we donate to a couple of different places. We donate to New House, Shelter KC, and Safe Home. All of those shelters are for women escaping domestic violence. Um, just to kind of, you know, I mean, provide encouragement to everyone and that kind of stuff. I mean, they've been through a lot, so it's important to make sure that they know that they're supported and loved and all that kind of stuff. So we really just wanted to make sure that we support however many people we can. We used to do a clothes drive as well. That was very, very hard to do. So
And
now
time consuming.
yes, very time consuming. So now we just raise menstrual products, vanity items, and general hygiene items. And most of those are more like things that maybe don't require a steady access to water or things like that. Because unfortunately, the truth is that sometimes people who live in these shelters won't have steady access to water and overall like showers and stuff. So like deodorants, mouthwash, all that kind of stuff is what we really ask for. And then menstrual pads because period poverty is a very big thing in the KC metro area, unfortunately. But it's super cool because in the works we have a we're having a partnership with a sustainable pad company in the works. So I'm pretty excited about that as well.
That's very exciting. So, when you run this in October, how can people find you and know if they want to drop off or even make a financial donation? Where's the best place to find out the information?
Definitely. So every October we go to Cosentino's. It's a grocery store right by our school, the one on like 160th and Antioch. And we kind of stand out there and we offer like last year it was like a little carnival ring toss game with some different prizes that local businesses sent us. Shout out to Yogurtini and Fat Bee for that. um, and Starbucks too. And the year before that, it was baked goods. So everyone on our exec board made some baked things. I think I made cupcakes and Sadia made cookies. And we had some lemonade going too. But overall, we just kind of stand out there and talk about our cause and how they can best donate. So we kind of just look at our stats from the year prior or just look at what we've got so far and ask like, oh, could we get some menstrual products, that kind of stuff. Or like financially, if you want to make a donation, we have it through our website or just through our Venmo, which I believe is also posted on our website. And then we'll have like drop off boxes around the community. We always have one at Blue Valley West during that time. And we partner with the club called Leo, which is a volunteering club. So if people in that club can't make hours that week, that month, they can donate to us that month and opt out of them, which is pretty cool. And then we also have drop off locations in neighborhoods around the area.
And give us your website so folks will know where to check.
Oh, definitely. It's futuresfemale.com. We weren't able to get the future is email just yet. So it's just futures female.
All part of the fun of learning how to run a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Now, you said that was a little arduous. Who helped you guys or helped you ladies go through that process? That's a challenge often.
Yes, a very big challenge. Me and Sadia are very independent, so we actually just did all the research ourselves. We talked to a couple of family friends just for some small advice, but overall, it was kind of just us that did it, which is pretty cool. Very daunting. It took a while, but it was a really good lesson learned because it just kind of showed like, you can do it if you put your mind to it.
That's right.
And I mean, the I mean, the forms, like after I kind of like read every little fine line that they had, they didn't seem as daunting, and I felt pretty prepared for them.
And the $10,000 that you all received from the T-Mobile competition, what are you going to do with that?
So first off, our scholarships. That's something we're really excited to launch, and we've been wanting to launch for a really long time. When we first started our donation drives, we were only accepting in-kind donations and no monetary donations. And I had someone reach out to me who was trying to put herself through nursing school, and she was struggling financially because she was a single mom of about 3 boys. And that really made me just like, we have to get this started. Like, we need to get this scholarship so other people can benefit from it and not have to worry about when their next meal is going to come from and all things like that. So I'm really super excited to get the scholarship launched. And one of our advisors, I was talking to him the other day, and he basically just told me, like, sometimes if you don't know what to do with the stuff you have, it's best to just leave it. So I think with the rest, we're definitely going to allocate it to charity and our drives, but we're going to make sure that we spend it pretty responsibly before like being like, whoa, we have a bunch of money and spending it all.
What's the criteria that for those scholarships? Is it just for high schoolers? Is it for adults? I mean, tell us a little how that's going to work.
As of right now, it's just for high schoolers. And contrary to popular belief, it's not just for women, it's for feminists, because being a woman and being a feminist are not mutually exclusive. And all we ask is that you submit a essay, doesn't have to be super long, about either what feminism means to you or a role model that's changed your views on feminism, or like how you are a feminist in your day-to-day life. Just a small essay on that. And then we have kind of a board of trustees, adults in our area who don't have kids in high school, so they'd be impartial, who are going to be judging that, and overall just kind of helping us decide who wins what. So the applications would open September 1st, and they're going to close, I believe, April 8th or 15th, and then the following April we're going to do some judging, or the following Saturday we'll do some judging, and then we will decide who wins, I guess, the 4 girls or the 4 people.
We have just a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to ask you, where do you hope to see this organization be in 5 years? You'll be out of high school, off into a college career or work world. What do you hope?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't even know. I keep seeing it grow. I definitely want it to be something that people are like, oh my gosh, you have a future as female at your school. I want to join. And overall, just like, I think that it's such an important topic to discuss and a club to have at your school, because while we are a group of feminists and we like to create change, at the end of the day, the best thing about us is that we're a safe space for people to gather and talk about what's going on with them and just how to step into that world of feminism. So I just want people to like think of future as female and think that's somewhere I feel comfortable at.
Kavya, thank you so much for talking about this wonderful project and your nonprofit and what you're doing and making a future for female. And I just love your youthful energy. So we wish you the very, very best.
Thank you so much. It was amazing talking to you as well.
Thank you for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. To be a guest on Casey Cares or underwriting opportunities, visit our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love and find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. Catch us on Saturday mornings, too, at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 a.m. and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on Casey Cares.